Tom Pelissero, who has told you a lot about Granger when he sits in this chair as a guest host back here on the Rich Eisen Show as an NFL Network insider and friend of the program. What is happening with Shamar Stewart? What is in that contract that caused a rookie to call out the team for putting more energy in winning arguments than games before he leaves camp, Tom? That is not what we normally see in the National Football League.
No, and I think that was really the rare part of this, Rich, was Shamar Stewart flat out calling out the team, not just over his own contract situation, but also saying, hey, if it were me, I'd give Trey Hendrickson all the money. Like, here you go. But I guess that's not how they operate.
Right.
The quotes were unique, but the situation is only unique in that Shamar Stewart declined to sign a participation agreement, which is very common among unsigned rookie draft picks. There was a time where it's not that long ago, as you know, before the 2011 collective bargaining agreement, when most of these rookie deals, at least the first rounders, did not get done in the early stages. And there were more holdouts and there were more deals that didn't get done until July and August. And players would sign a participation agreement, which covered everything from rookie camp through the mandatory mini camp. It does not apply in training camp. In order to participate on the field in training camp, you have to have your final contract done. Well, Shamar Stewart's the rare player who also declined to sign the participation agreement for separate issues. But when it comes to his actual contract and why this deal is not done yet, it boils down to this. The Bengals are trying to set a new precedent in terms of their contract language, putting in, and it's complicated, but the simplest way I can describe it is default language, that if you mess up once, it voids the rest of your contract. They have not historically had that language in their contracts, which surprises some people around the NFL because the Bengals have probably taken more chances from a character and background perspective on their high draft picks than anybody else over the past couple of decades here. They have not had that forfeiture language, that default language in place. They're trying to put it in the contract now. They did it across all their rookie deals. The NFL Players Association in the past, there was a big issue several years ago when a bunch of teams tried to do this, and the NFLPA advised all the agents, hey, don't let your guys sign this, because the moment that one first-round pick signs it, that then has the precedent that everybody else, until the end of time, is going to have that same language in their contract. Does it come up very often? No. You see every now and then somebody commits a violation and they could void their contract, and if you have specific language in there, that can happen. All of it boils down to this, Rich. This should not be as big of an issue as it is. And there is a point at which this is detrimental to everybody involved. But you also can see it from the Bengals' perspective of, hey, we want our language to mirror what other teams around the NFL are doing. Abdul Carter was drafted at number 3. He's got this language. From Shamar Stewart's perspective, or his agent Zach Hiller, it's, okay, that's fine, but the Giants have always had that language in. You're trying to make our guy the first one to take this language. So for now, and Shamar Stewart, left on the final day of minicamp yesterday. We'll see where this goes in the next 5 weeks or so. None of this is getting the Bengals any better at playing football at a time that they also are in a spat with their, the NFL's reigning sack leader, Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard retired in the offseason. For Bengals defense that gets a lot better, every rep missed, particularly for a guy like Shamar Stewart, doesn't help you win football games in 2025.
So it would be a precedent for Bengals draft choices, not all draft choices for all 32 teams. There are some franchises that do have this language in the contracts for rookies. It's just the Bengals have never had it, and now they're trying to institute it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And so there are many teams that have similar or identical types of void language, default language in the contracts. If they came to Shamar Stewart tomorrow and offered him the exact same contract language that Amarius Mims, their first-round pick last year, had, Shamar Stewart would sign. But they're trying to have their language mirror other clubs, even though, and this should be noted, the Bengals also don't pay out their bonus money on the same schedule that our teams do. I think this is one thing that fans don't necessarily understand, is that every team has different historical structures. They have different contract language. It is not blanket across the league. Different teams have different clauses. Different teams pay out, like some teams, for instance, will pay out 70% of the signing bonus and defer the other 30 until next year. There's some teams that pay out everything up front. everybody does things different. The only thing you have to go on is precedent. So there's this constant back and forth, and people can ask why in this day and age when all these contracts are slotted for rookies, how in the world do you ever have holdouts? How are any of these deals complicated to do? A lot of it comes down to language, and whether it's a team trying to set a new precedent like the Bengals are in this case, or it's an agent trying to break what they might feel is unfair precedent that another club has had. That's where sometimes these things can end up taking longer than they otherwise would. And Shamar Stewart just happens to be, again, not a unique argument. These language things happen all the time. But the fact that he's not practiced once since the draft, that part of it is unusual.
Certainly when he got drafted, we were, talking about it during commercial breaks on occasion over the 3-day draft, mentioning that maybe this is Trey Hendrickson insurance, right? By drafting Shamar Stewart at an edge position. So now that guy isn't there practicing, and Trey Hendrickson, as we all know, wants his money. Where does that stand? I mean, where do we go from here?
I always say this, Rich, there is no close. There is only done or not done. There are a lot of people that in the Trey Hendrickson situation would argue they're not that far apart. This is a deal that could get done. But the Bengals are, pretty committed at times to the way that they want to get contracts done. Trey Hendrickson is very much dug in on his position, which is he does not want another 1-year extension like the one he signed a couple of years ago, which put him in the position that he's in right now. He wants a multi-year commitment. He wants guaranteed money. There's a bunch of different ways that they can get there, but they're not seeing eye to eye on this right away. I think there's a lot of other teams, Rich, quite frankly, when you've got a guy who's coming off of leading the NFL in sacks and has had, 18 sacks, I think, 2 years in a row, one of the most productive players. He doesn't miss games. He's 31, but that is not, on the older end for that position. We've seen pass rushers play very well, defensive linemen play very well into their mid-30s. And he's not trying to break the bank. He's not trying to get above Myles Garrett, which was 4 years and 160 million, 40 million per. My understanding is he's not trying to get above that. He's trying to get a fair deal that's in line with the Max Crosbys and the Danielle Hunters that we've seen through the course of this offseason. He feels like his play on the field has earned it. We know from Trey's own words that he feels like the Bengals told him a year ago when he initially requested a trade, then rescinded it, showed up and played out that, hey, if you play at that same level, we'll take care of you in a year. And he doesn't feel like they've done that to this point. The other thing that sometimes complicates these deals is Trey Hendrickson is only, and I use that term liberally, but only due $16.5 million this year. That is less than half of what the top pass rushers make. What that creates complications with, and this is broadly speaking across contracts, is when you're talking about cash flow and you start from a very low number, it's hard to make the numbers work without completely front loading a deal just to make sure that the cash that's going into the player's account makes sense, but also that you're not ending up with a tiny number in the final year, which is something that clubs generally don't want to do. And so there's a give and take here, and there's a buy play. The leverage for the Bengals is, hey, if you don't take the best offer we're willing to make you, then you're going to come in and play for the 16.5, or else you're going to lose $1 million a week on top of the fines and the bonus forfeiture that could add up to $3-4 million through the course of camp. Trey Hendrickson has said, well, I don't care. I'm not showing up and playing on this contract. I believe that this will get done, Rich.
Okay.
I believe it'll end up being a multi-year extension just because I don't think that they want to do a 1-year extension. They've talked about a variety of different options over the past several weeks. But right now, it's been quiet for the past few days. And Trey Hendrickson, like Shamar Stewart, not in Cincinnati as minicamp concluded, which once again leaves the Bengals as a team facing some level of drama here as we head into the break before training camp.
Yeah, I hear you. And Bengals drama will always get our attention in the media, that's for sure. Certainly when it's contractual, but you got to give it up. I mean, they did get T. Higgins signed. They did get Jamar Chase signed. And you're saying that this is all going to eventually come out in the wash. I mean, McLaurin's not where the Commanders want him. T.J. Watt isn't in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, quarterbacks taking snaps, in Cleveland right now. I mean, anything over the past week, Tom, that you think actually gives you a bellwether to what's going to happen by week one? Or you think all these contracts are going to get solved, or the way that reps have been split, say in Cleveland, it gives you a window into anything? Anything mini camp wise this week, do you think actually is going to stick, is what I'm saying,
TJ
Tom?
Watt not showing up for minicamp is significant just because not many players hold out for minicamp. There were only 4 this year so far that flat out didn't show up. With TJ Watt, I anticipate a deal is going to get done there eventually. Mike Tomlin said as much yesterday. He's due $21 million in the last year of his contract. So again, you're talking about coming from a smaller number and also a player who's 31. He has played through a lot of injuries, but he has been banged up over the past couple of years. In the second half of last season, TJ Watt and the Steelers defense as a whole just didn't play that well. And so the question is, with a player of that age, above all else, what's the guaranteed money that's going to take to get it done? Are you comfortable with a player at that age paying upwards of $100 million in guaranteed money on a multiple year contract extension? I believe that ultimately they're going to get there just because TJ Watt's really important to a Steelers team that, I mean, shoot, they just signed a 41-year-old quarterback. They're clearly not thinking, hey, let's try to win 3 years from now. They are in win now mode, as they are every year with Mike Tomlin, who himself is at least somewhat on a year-to-year basis as he enters his 19th season as the Steelers head coach. I at least believe that and the Trey Hendrickson situations well could be something that we're still talking about prior to most teams reporting, which I believe is on July 23rd. In terms of the quarterback competitions, the fact that in Indianapolis, Daniel Jones took all the reps because Anthony Richardson once again is dealing with an injury. You would anticipate that that's going to give Daniel Jones some level of a leg up, but there are still people in that organization who are hoping that a guy that they bet on the upside with, in Anthony Richardson, is going to figure it out. It's year 3. It's go time if it wasn't already for Anthony Richardson. So let's see what happens when he's able to get back on the field here. Obviously, we've got a competition with the Saints. That would seem like it's Tyler Shuck versus Spencer Rattler. We'll see how that one goes as we get into training camp. And in terms of the Browns, Kevin Stefanski keeps saying, don't read into the reps, don't read into the order. They don't need to give Joe Flacco a ton of reps in May and June. He's 40 years old, conserve his body, conserve his arm. I know I've said it before, Rich, but the way that they come out, I believe, in the first week of camp, not the first day, because sometimes you mix it up day to day. You want a guy taking it with the 2s one day, the 3s the next day. Let's watch the first week of training camp, how they spread out those reps. It is hard to give 4 guys equal opportunities here. Let's read into what takes place over that first week of training camp in July. That'll give us a good tell of what it's going to look like come the first preseason game. And after that first preseason game, usually in that second week of the preseason, Rich, that's when, even if the team doesn't announce it for multiple weeks after that, that's when you have a pretty clear indication what direction things are going to go.
Okay. You dropped a pretty big morsel during that soliloquy, Tom. I kind of feel like one of my dogs when I drop something on the floor. They just kind of like, wait a minute, they go right up to that little piece of banana that might have fell on the floor there, and they scoop it up, which is great because I don't have to bend over to throw it out. But that's a long-winded way of saying, wait a minute. Tomlin's year to year? Is that what's happening right now? We don't have any insight as to what happens contractually. Are he and the Steelers on a year-to-year basis right now, and who's doing is that happening that you're willing to share here, Tom?
My belief is Mike Tomlin will be the head coach of the Steelers for as long as he wants to be, but he's entering his 19th year. There is not a lot of precedent in the modern NFL, Bill Belichick aside, for somebody going on 20 years with one team. It just doesn't happen. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Mike Tomlin, we all know, has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. He has a lot of influence over all aspects of the organization. Personnel, look no further than Aaron Rodgers, who Mike Tomlin stumped for from the start, basically from the moment that they knew that they weren't going to be able to get Justin Fields back, that the Matthew Stafford trade was not going to happen. Rodgers was the guy that Tomlin was willing to say, I'll go through the whole spring without this guy here. And he ultimately got his guy. But at the same time, every year, Rich, we have a story of some team reaching out on Mike Tomlin. Could you end up trading for him? Every year, there's some level of rumblings about, could Mike Tomlin decide to do something else? Could he go into broadcast? There's a lot of different things that he could choose to do. I'm not saying he's sitting there right now thinking about, I'm going to walk away after the season. I would just say anytime that you get into these types of situations and every year we're talking about what somebody's future is going to be, that should give you a pretty clear indication that you're on a year-to-year type of a basis. You look at what they've done, really over the past several years here. Ben Roethlisberger, they rode him until the wheels came off. They tried with Kenny Pickett. There were a lot of factors in why Kenny Pickett did not work out in Pittsburgh. There were the injuries, there were the concussions, there was an offense that just wasn't particularly functional as a whole. But since then, it was let's plug in Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Let's try to win right now. It didn't end up working out, though they got to the playoffs. Now it's let's plug in Aaron Rodgers and try to win right now. The Steelers are never a team that is looking to blow things up and let's go 3-14 for a couple of years and start over here. But they certainly have a very veteran roster that is built to win right now. You're paying the Cam Haywards year after year. You're probably going to pay TJ Watt again. You've got a 41-year-old quarterback now in Aaron Rodgers. You are thinking the window right now, even in a really competitive AFC North, to win is here.
Sure.
The results influence everything here. Mike Tomlin's own wishes influence things. I don't foresee, and nothing about the history of the Rooney family would indicate that they would fire Mike Tomlin. I talked with Art Rooney about this last summer. What he said was, my standard is as long as the locker room is still listening to the coach and we believe in the coach, there's no reason to make a change. And that's what Art Rooney picked up from his father, from his grandfather. That's how the Steelers have always run the organization. But again, when the calls keep coming on Mike Tomlin and when you're coming up on 20 years as a head coach, it's only natural that at some time everything is going to come to an end. Mike Tomlin will be the one in all likelihood to choose when that comes. We'll see how this season goes, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the future again in December.
No, and I hear you, Tom, but year to year, like that's one thing. When the other option is 3-year deal +1, and if we want to part ways, we'll figure out some sort of monetary arrangement, but last one. I mean, do we know? Is it just a tack a year on? That's it? Is that the actual mechanism that's happening, or is he on a this is the last year of his deal?
No, he's been on a series of multi-year contracts.
Okay.
He's not in a contract year right now. Generally, I believe they've done like 3-year contract extensions with him. But again, I don't anticipate Art Rooney ever trading Mike Tomlin. I don't think that Art Rooney fires Mike Tomlin. Does Mike Tomlin at some point say, I need to do something different? If he were to initiate the conversation, I think that it's something that all parties would listen to. But again, they feel like they've got a really good coach. They haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. There's no question that there is some level of pressure, particularly locally, to try to take another step here. But there's a belief in Mike Tomlin that goes far beyond just, any number of, the record or playoff appearances or anything else. This guy's still a really good football coach. And if you were to move on from him, do you know that you're getting an upgrade? They believe that they've got one of the top coaches in the NFL. But again, if at some point Mike Tomlin just decided, you know what, at this stage of my life and career, I want to go and see someplace else. That's what I mean by year to year here, which is it's a topic every single year as we get later on into the season of could somebody trade for Mike Tomlin? Could he decide to go someplace else? That part just isn't going away, and that's the nature of the NFL.
Tom, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it. No one texted you, right, during this conversation? No,
I got one video from TJ. Sorry, TJ.
My goodness gracious.
In my defense, I made my intentions clear.
Oh my
It was early. It was early while we were still doing the hellos, just for the record.
Come on, just
Go ahead.
You're an adult. Like, be an adult.
Thank you.
I don't know how.
Tom, thanks for the time, man. That's Tom Pelissero,
Tom
everyone.
P.
I'll text you later, Tom.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.